Hello everyone, I'm Maritza of the Sybil Heart, and welcome to the Full Moon Tarot reading. So I was just randomly shuffling cards from the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck and the Archetypes deck, and something really cool happened. So from the Alchemy deck, I got the Hierogamos, which is the alchemical wedding card. And from the Archetypes deck, I got the Vow, which is these two cards are related because in the alchemical wedding, you're making a promise of a union. And an alchemical wedding is the coming together of two opposite halves, spiritually speaking. This is not a actual wedding between two people, but it is a wedding that happens that happens within ourselves, where we learn how to process, metabolize, and integrate certain aspects of ourselves that we may be uncomfortable with, but that actually help us become closer to who we are meant to be. And then the vow is a promise. It is a promise or an oath that is made that if it is broken, it shows the makeup of your character. So if you break a vow, which is a very serious promise, you vow to do something, and you break that vow, that shows that you are untrustworthy, you may also not be able to be relied upon when it matters most, even not only with yourself, but not only with others, but also and especially with yourself. And that may be the thing that you have to become like you have to accept that as part of yourself. And that's just an example, though. Very, very on the surface example. So I thought that was very cool. And I also pulled 3 cards from the Hexen 2.0 tarot deck by Suzanne Treister. And from that deck, we got the Queen of Chalices, the Wheel of Fortune, and the Knave, or the Page of Chalices. So from this part of the reading, because it's two cards from the same suit, the Queen of Cups and the Page of Cups, I'm thinking that this may have something to do with an acceptance of a certain emotional aspect of yourself that could get triggered when you don't know which direction to go in. And the reason I say directionless or without a sense of direction is because the Wheel of Fortune is right in between these two cards. And the Wheel of Fortune, you don't know whether it's going forwards, backwards, left, right, down, up, until it stops. And it kind of reminds me of that dream Pocahontas had in the animated film, where she talks to Grandmother Willow about the dream in which I forget what she said. Oh, an arrow that was spinning and spinning, and then it suddenly stops. That's kind of like what the Wheel of Fortune reminds me of right now. And it's part of the reason why I'm saying, like, there's this sense of not knowing which way to turn, which makes you feel really uncomfortable. And so it's triggering this response where you become unreliable even to yourself because you don't know which way to go. And at some point you may reach a level of impatience or vulnerability or insecurity where you make a rash decision, and you'll decide based on fear, pretty much, rather than on what you feel or need or want. And I think what the Queen of Chalices is saying is that when you are comfortable, when you are when you are in a state of, I guess, contentment, and there are no obstacles, there are no challenges that are causing you to feel directionless. You know exactly what you want. You are reliable. You are dependable. You have this ability to keep your promises like you want to. But it's time to, when it comes time to stepping out of your comfort zone and expanding and growing, you become, you begin to feel vulnerable and insecure, and the unknown is what really gets to you. So what happens is you're with the page of chalices here, I think what happens is you let your imagination get away from you and really like amp up the all worst case scenario possibilities. So like you have a very good imagination, but only when you feel vulnerable, insecure, threatened in some way. Like your imagination gets the better of you, but it's for the worse, right? Like it only comes out, your imagination only comes out in full bloom when you're in your darkest hour. And that's not necessarily bad, but it can get you in hot water. Like, what I'm thinking of right now is like, you had hoped for the best, you had good intentions, but when it came to fulfilling whatever it was that you needed to fulfill, something could have happened and it caused you to do something else. And then you end up saying, oh, I didn't mean to do that. But like you didn't mean to do that, but you did. And you weren't thinking clearly because you were uncomfortable somehow in some way that caused you to, in a sense, self-sabotage. So I think what needs to happen now is that you will need to become more aware. What needs to happen is that you will have to become more aware of how you react to uncomfortable situations, especially when it comes to having you or others depend on you. So once you become aware, I mean, that's like, I would say 90% of the process is becoming aware. The process of this alchemical wedding, becoming aware of how you react to vulnerability is, it's not a job, and it's not a complete job, but it is worth a lot. But the other thing is this is a process that is ongoing. It always has to be maintained, checked in on every once in a while, and even tested sometimes. Um, but here's the thing. You have to want to do all of this work. If you don't want to do this, it's not going to help you in any way. And so this is going to this wanting to do this work is wanting to change, wanting to stop relying on a defense mechanism that no longer is serving you. And the way that you've realized that it's no longer serving you is that you want to change things. You want to change yourself. And the way that you begin to change things for yourself, within yourself, is by becoming aware, developing an awareness of yourself, observing how you react to vulnerability. So that's just the first part of this reading. Now I'm actually going to use my Rider-Waite-Smith deck to do a general, but still relating to the topic we've been talking about, maybe, Celtic Cross Tarot spread. So, full moon messages. Oh, by the way, this is for all signs. So, just a quick shuffle. Okay, first card is the Devil. So, we're going through a rough patch. This is exactly the type of thing that's going to begin this process. The Devil card speaks about the very thing, the very obstacle, the challenge that is making us feel vulnerable, insecure, and it's making this part of ourselves rear its ugly head, in a sense. It's the Devil card is a card about shadow work. And again, this is something that you're going toe to toe with, right? Like, you might even be already trying to work through this process, but whatever is happening, it's not working for you. And I'm gonna say, please don't lose heart. It is a process. You do have to try different techniques, and sometimes the technique that you end up relying upon will eventually have to change later on. And I think for right now, what I'm going to say is, if you are going through this shadow work process and you're having, and challenging, this is the perfect time for you to consult a licensed therapist. Or if you can't afford a therapist, you can speak to someone you trust, someone who you feel has it together. Because I can guarantee that they have been through similar situations, and they might be able to give you some advice that is helpful on how to navigate this challenging time. As the cross card, we have the Hierophant. Okay, so we're talking about the alchemical marriage. We're talking about the vow. We have the Devil and the Hierophant. So we're talking about opposites. Opposites that come together and become a what am I seeing here? So, okay, here's the thought. The shadow work process is not about getting rid of, but accepting and using your whatever it is, I'm not even sure what the terminology is, but the characteristic, the defense mechanism, you turn it around and you use it to your advantage rather than it taking advantage of you. And this, I keep wanting to call it a defense mechanism, but it's not necessarily that. Although, I guess in some ways, all triggers are a defense or trigger reactions are a defense mechanism, right? In one way or another. But I feel like I'm seeing these two big parts of yourself they're clashing. And of course that is part of the shadow work process, right? Where it's this moment where you feel uncomfortable with yourself, where you feel like you need to change, you need to do something but this is a change that goes deeper than just moving away or maybe even changing your hair color. Like, that can help, right? Those things can help in helping you feel better about the situation, but I think it's much deeper than just on the surface things. This is something that is deeply, deeply ingrained in you. And you want to keep promises to yourself, especially through these uncomfortable times. But it is those uncomfortable times that cause you to feel like you need to make a rash decision because you're not thinking. You're relying on instinct. But the Hierophant is saying, when you're comfortable, when you're content, you are a clear thinker. You are a rational thinker, or a patient decision maker, because you know the direction in which you're going. The challenge is bringing that through the uncomfortable times. And it's difficult because this is such a deeply ingrained mechanism that you have. Which is why I'm also recommending that seeing a therapist or a trusted friend person could help in a lot of ways. Oh my gosh, then we have the Hermit as the foundation of the situation, and I am thinking, like, this is something, what's the phrase? This may be a moment where you have to realize that being your own best friend is it's going to become a strength that you're going to come into realization to. And like I was mentioning before, like if you decide to change something, you're going to realize that just because you changed something on the surface level, the person that you are inside is still going to be there. So that's when you're going to realize that this change needs to be much deeper than just surface level change. And that the person that you are inside is going to follow you around. And if you're not careful, you are going to be haunted by your own ghost. And the way to avoid that is to become aware of the shadow work that needs to be done. But again, this is something that you have to want to do. It has to be something that you feel you must do. Because it's not going to work if you don't want to do it. Okay. So, the distant past is the Chariot. Okay. So, I think what's happening is that you thought you had it all together. You thought you had it all figured out. But that was because you were not being challenged. There were no obstacles in your way. And now life decided to put a huge boulder in your path. And now you're struggling. You're struggling to figure out what it is that you should do, need to do. What you used to do is no longer working, so that trigger reaction defense mechanism is no longer, like, this is the whole thing. This is the thing that is causing you to realize that you need to change something. And it has to be a change that goes deeper than just changing your hair color or moving to a different city. Because you are still going to be who you are. You're not changing. You're not changing your inner being. You are changing the outer shell. Right? You're changing your environment. You're changing your hair color. You're changing your wardrobe style. But that doesn't mean that the person you are inside has also changed. That the person you are inside is staying the same when you change on the surface things. You're not doing the work necessary to make this a permanent that's the thing. Like, all of those on the surface things are temporary. You could let your hair grow out and have your natural hair color return. You could decide to move again to somewhere else. You could go back to your original fashion sense. Those are all temporary things. And this is something that needs to change within you. And with all of the majors, all of the first 4 cards of this Celtic Cross reading are major cards. So this is going to be a very vulnerable time, difficult time. There's going to be a lot of lashing out with impatience and with anger. So that's why awareness is necessary, so that you don't do those things. You don't rely on your ingrained, like deeply ingrained trigger reaction, because that's the thing that is causing you to feel even more vulnerable and uncomfortable. You don't want to rely on that. And you keep asking yourself, why did I do that? Why did I react that way? That's the first sign of awareness, is asking yourself why you reacted a certain way. Like, and that might even be the question that begins the process. Like, why did I yell at the customer service teller or whatever? Like, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm thinking of like those videos I've seen in social media of the people who will yell at like cashier people. And every time I see those videos, I'm like, they have no self-awareness. So that's what I mean. This is going to be a process of self-awareness that at first is going to make you feel incredibly uncomfortable. You're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing, where you're going, but that is part of the process. I would say just be careful not to make any like really rash decisions. But that's going to be also a difficult task. So I would say just be careful with the decisions that you make under pressure, I think. Okay, and then we have the crowning. I forget what this card is called, but it's the crown it's the crowning influence that is over everything. And it is the Three of Wands. Okay, so what I'm getting from the Three of Wands is, you're afraid of your own potential. You're afraid of the promises you've made to yourself. And maybe you don't even realize it yet, but you may be afraid. The reason that you may be afraid of your own potential is that you're afraid of not meeting your own expectations. Because you haven't challenged yourself enough. You've always sought the most comfortable, the situations that can keep you and others content, or at least always able to reach a compromise of some kind, even if it's something that you really don't want, but you're willing to meet people more than halfway. So bargaining is not your strong suit. Oh, okay, here's what's coming up. you've made more deals with the devil than you can count. Whoa. And it's not even for your benefit. It's more of a thing of like, well, I guess it is. It is for your benefit because you don't want to create conflict. You don't want to muck things up for yourself. So this is something, making these little pacts with the devil is finally catching up with you. It's finally making you realize that it's time to allow yourself to be who you really are. Allow yourself more autonomy, more self-authority, and self-assurance, rather than just depending on what others want to make the decisions for you. You know what I mean? There's a phrase, I can't remember it right now. Alright, so the near future, we have the Two of Swords. You may even be in it right now, where you don't know which direction to take. Especially emotionally and spiritually, you may be feeling lost and very much not yourself because you don't know who you are right now. Ooh, and with the Three of Wands, you may have this feeling of like you could become anyone you wanted. And I feel like the Chariot is saying, but will the person you choose to be who you truly are? Are you aware enough of yourself that you can become the authentic person that you know, even if you don't realize it, that you know you are? Can you do that? Then we have the Four of Pentacles. This is outer influences. Four of Pentacles. I think from someone on the outside looking in on your life, they think you have it all together, right? They have no idea that this is what's going on, but the reason is because you are holding your cards close to your chest. I feel like what's going on is that nobody knows what's going on because you are intensely private. Nobody can get a sense of how you really feel about things. And I mean, not that that's a bad thing, but if you need help, it's going to be really difficult for you to, it's going to be time for you to break down some of that wall that you have around yourself. Because for one, people can't read your mind, and two, they won't know what you don't tell them, right? Because duh, they can't read your mind. So it's time to kind of loosen up some of those bricks in that wall, at least. And I think you will often, very often, hear the phrase, wow, that really surprises me, because people will be surprised that you are dealing with the situation. And then for inner influence, we have the 5 of Cups. And all of this is stemming from a feeling of loneliness, a feeling of dissatisfaction, a feeling of regret. And I feel like I was talking about that earlier, where you're going to become haunted by your own ghost. And perhaps that's already happening, where you might be feeling like you have so many regrets in your life that you feel like it's haunting you almost. For hopes and fears, we have the Knight of Swords. So, your hope is that you want to become more enlivened, more lively, more sparkly in a sense. But it is also your greatest fear is to become more charismatic and attention grabbing. The other thing is you want to, the main thing, this is the main point. You want to step out of your comfort zone, but you don't know which direction to take, and you don't want to take the wrong direction. I think that's your greatest fear, is actually stepping out of your comfort zone and then realizing that it was the wrong direction to take. So you're afraid of having a regret of a different kind. So I think the regret that we've been talking about before is the regret of basically doing nothing. And then with the regret of the Knight of Swords, we're talking about the regret of doing something you shouldn't have done, or doing something that wasn't right for you personally. But I will say this. I feel like having done something, even if it was not the correct thing for you or not the right experience for you, is still better than doing nothing. Because it's an experience, you've learned from that experience, and now you know, like, oh, that was the wrong thing, I can do something else. So I think what you're trying to do in this moment is you want to try something new, you want to do something different in order to find another place of contentment and not contentment, but more of like complacency. You want to reach a point where, and that's your defense mechanism, right? Reaching the point of what's the word? Well, the word that's coming up is complacency, where you can figure out ways not to raise conflict, not to be a challenge, not to it's a new comfort zone for you. And that is the issue that we are trying to avoid, because complacency is the thing that got you in the situation of dissatisfaction, of regret in the first place. So you are trying to change things, but ultimately you don't want to change things, because that is what is deeply ingrained in you. You want to change things in order to not change things. And what we really want is to stop relying on that comfort zone so much. Even if it's a new one, like this is a moment where you can figure out a space where you are happy, where you are actually finding joy rather than just doing what is best so that you don't cause a ruckus of any kind. You don't have to do the thing that makes you miserable, because it's the thing that makes everyone else happy. Does that make sense? You can do things that make you happy too. You can make decisions that are solely for your benefit. You don't have to make pacts with the devil, as I was saying before. And the outcome is... Ooh, okay, I got 2 cards. the Temperance and the Hanged Man. The Temperance card and the Hanged Man are both the outcome cards. Oh my gosh, okay. So again, they're the same card, but they manifest in different ways. So the Temperance card is about you can choose to become someone who is happy. Like, you can make decisions that are for your benefit every once in a while. You can reach compromises and not be the one who meets the compromise more than halfway. You can be someone who turns lead into gold. Or with the Hanged Man, you can be someone who feels stuck, someone who feels like they have no direct sense of direction. Or the other thing the Hanged Man is saying is that you can change your perspective, which means you have become aware of yourself enough to be able to change something in you that changes your perspective on things. And that's what I'm talking about when I was talking about changing things on the surface level does not change who you are. You have to become self-aware of your inner self to change on a much deeper level. And that's one of the ways the Hanged Man can manifest. But you have to choose. You have to choose. You have to make the decision. You have to promise yourself, vow to yourself that this self-awareness will help you change for the better. And the first step to that change is becoming self-aware of whatever the situation is. In terms of astrology, we have Capricorn with the Devil card. We have Taurus with the Hierophant. We have Virgo with the Hermit. We have Cancer with the Chariot. We have air signs with the Knight of Swords. So that's Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. We have Sagittarius with Temperance and Neptune with the Hanged Man. And water signs with the Queen of Chalices and the Knave of Chalices. That's Pisces, Scorpio, and Cancer. Okay, so all of those signs and planets are good ones to pay attention to, either in the past or upcoming. For Neptune, I will say that some stuff is going on with Neptune right now where it's going into or has already gone into the sign of Aries, which is a big deal because they're kind of they deal with like opposite concepts, where the Hanged Man is about spirituality and dreams and imagination and like the afterlife, and Aries is about being the boss, making demands, being very action oriented, and the Hanged Man is like very not that. And right now we are just about to go into Taurus season, if we haven't already. I think we might already be in Taurus season. Hold on, let me make sure. Oh yeah, that's next week. Yeah, so we'll want excuse me, I'm losing my voice. We'll want to pay attention to Taurus season. That may be a difficult time for some. And then we'll want to pay attention to the past Capricorn season and the past Cancer season. Those seasons may have been moments where we became aware of a sense of extreme vulnerability and uncomfortableness, and it may have instigated this whole situation. So that is the reading for this full moon. I hope that you'll like, comment, subscribe to this channel, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.